Hey guys, welcome back to A Page in the Chapter, or welcome if you are new here. My name is Paige and today we are going to go through some books that do not deserve the hype, do not deserve rights. Just please take my opinions on this and leave them alone. Don't trust TikTok. Put the phone down. Listen to me because I've tried it, I've tested it, I fell for the BookTok algorithm and let me tell you, it's wrong. So I think we all spend hours and hours and hours scrolling through TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and then playing some YouTube in the background. I know that is my everyday occurrence. I just flip between those apps and I have YouTube playing in the background. And so I tend to get taken in by books. And there are just some books out there that I feel like publishers just paid BookTok to overhype. I know they didn't, but like, why do some of these have the reviews that they do? These are the books that I think you should avoid, that I think don't deserve the hype. If you would like to see books that are worth the hype, books that you can replace the time spent reading these with, then I will do that video. Just let me know if you would like it. But I do also have a best books of the year so far video already up. Just replace with those books. So if you guys like the sound of this video and you would like to stick around and see more, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below and stay tuned for future content. I upload bookish content twice a week on a Wednesday and a Friday, so there's just no shortage of books and book talk around here, and if you like that then you're gonna want to stay. So without further ado, let's get into the books. So I have 6 books to share with you here. I only actually have 3 of them in a physical format because, believe it or not, I got rid of them because most of the time if I don't like a book I will get rid of it because who has the space? So the very first book that I have on this list, I just want to get it over and done with. I want to get it out of the way. You all know that it's going to be on this list. Let's just deal with it, and that is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Colleen Hoover books are so hyped on TikTok. Like, it's actually insane how popular Colleen Hoover has become, and I think people are starting to realise that actually it was all just a bit of a hype train. She's not really that good, and I'm glad to see that. But I did decide to pick this one up because Ugly Love is a brother's best friend, enemies to lovers, no strings attached style romance. I do tend to like those. I wanted another romance book and I had this one on my shelf, so I just decided I'd pick this one up. And I knew if I didn't like this book then Colleen Hoover probably wouldn't be for me, because this is the book that just seems the most me in terms of tropes and plotline. And I gave this 1 star. I would give it no stars if that just didn't look like I was reviewing it higher than I was. This essentially follows Miles as he is navigating this enemies to lovers, no strings attached romance with Tate, but also bringing all this trauma from his past relationship. And the past relationship with Rachel is icky and disgusting at best. So yeah, I don't really rate this book. I also think whoever did the cover design, are you okay in the head? Like, this is a bit sick and twisted to have this as the cover design. I kind of recommend this if you want to laugh at a book rather than with a book. Like, it was so bad that it was making me almost hysterical, and in some ways that was kind of fun, but for the most part just don't read this book. Also, Colleen Hoover is quite a problematic person. Don't give her money. The next book that I think is massively overhyped and I do think that you should avoid is You and Me on Vacation by Emily Henry. I have since read Beach Read and Book Lovers, and I do think they are both better than this book. And to be honest, Beach Read, I gave that one 4.5 stars. I would recommend Beach Read to you. I will be rereading that book many times over. You and Me on Vacation, however, You and Me on Vacation is a friends to lovers following Poppy and Alex, and they go on holiday together every year, but on one holiday they have a massive falling out. Doesn't take a genius to work out what that was about. It follows Poppy in the present day as she convinces Alex to go on like one last trip with her, and then you also get these flashback scenes to Poppy and Alex from college through to present day. I just found the flashback scenes to be incredibly boring. They worked at first as a way to really break up the tension in the present day settings, but towards the end of the book they really dragged, and I literally just started to skip them. And if I'm having to skip whole chapters of your book many times over, then I'm sorry, but to me that is not a good book. The spicy level of this book, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's particularly stayed with me. I don't really remember what it was, so I don't think it was anything too spectacular. I just really started to find this book boring. I don't recommend it. I think if you're going to read an Emily Henry book, I would go with either Beach Read or Book Lovers. So this is not an Emily Henry hate thing. This is just a Poppy and Alex hate thing. Oh, also Poppy really had this like millennial ennui thing going on, which I just did not really relate to. Like, boo-hoo, you work for a company that sends you on holiday all the time, but sometimes it doesn't let you go on holiday to the place that you want to go. Wow, your life is so hard. I really feel for you. And if she keeps calling it ennui, or like, I can't remember what she was calling it, but she kept, like, our character kept like actively referring to her own sense of like melancholy. Like, she's a bit of a pick-me girl, that's the word I'm looking for. And I just didn't really enjoy reading from her perspective. And so then we have A Gathering of Shadows by V.E. Schwab. This is book 2 in the Shades of Magic trilogy. Overall, I love the Shades of Magic trilogy. I massively recommend book 1 and book 3, but I kind of feel like you don't need to have this one in the trilogy for the trilogy to make sense. This book is 500 pages and it's so not worth it. Like, seriously, I would skip and look up the basic plot, or just look up like a spoilery review or something like that, so that you can just go on into book 3. But the Shades of Magic trilogy overall is about our main character Kel, and he has the ability to travel into different parallel versions of London. So you have Red London, which accepts magic and accepts Kel for what he is. You have White London, which also accepts magic but kind of uses it more for like political gain and is a very unstable place. And then you have Grey London, which is the London that I currently reside in, that doesn't believe in magic, and whilst there might be touches of magic in the city, like there shouldn't really be. And then once upon a time there was a Black London that used magic to such an extent that it kind of burnt from the inside out. And this honestly is a series that I love. V.E. Schwab is so good. I also do believe that she's currently writing like a bit of a spin-off series. I do recommend this series, but I do think that this particular book is not very good, and in that sense, like, maybe the series doesn't deserve the hype that it gets, or if people are hyping up this series, I would like to see some more people talking about how this book is completely irrelevant to the storyline, because I cannot be the only person who feels that way. Oh, now we have a fun one for me to rant about. I'd go and get a cup of tea if I were you. Because we have The Spanish Love Deception. I don't know how many times I've talked about how much I hate this book. Okay, so this is an enemies to lovers fake dating office romance following our main characters whose names I don't remember. Our main female character needs a fake date to her sister's wedding in Spain because her ex-fiance is going to be there and he has moved on, and she doesn't want to seem like she's a strong independent woman who's gone to New York to have a successful career. Like, that would just be a horrible thing if her family knew that she had a successful career instead of a boyfriend. And so she ropes in our main male character, who is like her office enemy, but her reason for hating him is so trite and stupid and unbelievable, and he so very clearly doesn't hate her. Like, he is so madly in love with her to a point where it crosses the boundary from like yearning into Stalkerville. There's also like this whole book is called The Spanish Love Deception, and is centered around the fact that our main characters need to go to Spain for this fake date wedding thing, but the fake date wedding thing takes less than half a chapter. It takes you ages, it takes you more than 200 pages I think to get to this wedding, and then it's over in half a chapter and you still have another 150 or so pages left to read. It's a very, very chunky book. It's so long for no reason, and I was coming into this book for the fake dating. There was barely any of it, and yeah, I just found main character to be so creepy. Just felt like the book tried so hard to be enemies to lovers fake dating in an office setting that it didn't really do any of them well. I just felt like it needed some very heavy editing. It needed someone to read it and say, okay, this guy is coming across a little creepy. okay, I do think that you need to take out one of these big tropes that you have in there and maybe just have two. Because enemies to lovers, fake dating is fine. Office romance, fake dating is fine. But all three together, bit too much, hun, just a little bit too much. And then the penultimate book I would like to share with you is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. This is a book that I was ecstatic to read, because there are some books that you just remember from when BookTube was like, for me anyway, in its heyday. And this was one of those books that I always wanted to read, like as a teenager, watching BookTube and seeing like how much everyone raved about this book. There are just books that stay with you that I wanted to be a booktuber reading, and this was one of those books. This is a YA fantasy set in Prague. I will link the vlog where I read it, because I read it for a like traveling with books vlog. But that's kind of all I can tell you about this book, because I really did not understand it. And given it's a YA fantasy, if me, a very solid fantasy reader and someone who only read fantasy at the time of reading it, cannot read and understand a YA fantasy, that's a little bit worrying. And it can't be that bad of a book because people love it so much, right? Like maybe this one is just on me, but I do feel like some of the hype, like it's just a bit of a train. And because it's one of those classic books and Laini Taylor is like such a classic YA fantasy author, maybe we're all just a little bit biased towards her books. Because I didn't really think, I wanted to think highly of it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing that happened in that book because I was just so confused about what was going on at every single turn of the page. I feel like this one is maybe more on me than the other books were, but yeah, I think it's a bit overhyped. And then the final book that I have to share with you that I think is overhyped. A Heart So Fierce and Broken by Bridget Kemmerer. This is book 2 to A Curse So Dark and Lonely. I don't know what the series overall is called. I actually quite enjoyed A Curse So Dark and Lonely, the first book, and so I was kind of excited to go into A Heart So Fierce and Broken. But this series gets quite a bit of hype, particularly on Bookstagram, I think because the books are just so pretty and the sides are like silver and glittery, and they've done a great job with the aesthetics and the branding of this series. You see the book, you immediately know what it is. Do take this with a pinch of salt because I haven't read A Vow So Bold and Deadly, which is book 3, so I don't know if the books continue in this trajectory. But did anyone else feel a bit like it was a rip-off of ACOMAF? I know that there will be some crossover because this series is also a Beauty and the Beast retelling with a very diverse set of characters actually, and the first book follows our main character Harper, and she is like accidentally taken through a portal to like the Beast's castle where she has to fall in love with him, break the curse, blah 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 blah. And so then this book follows Prince's like second in command, like his best friend basically, and he's fled the castle and it follows his adventures. And there's a little bit of crossover with Harper and Prince Ren, but for the most part this is Grey's story. And there were some little details in here that were actually very entertaining and fine, but for the most part I really felt like this was a bit of a Sarah J Maas ripoff. I feel so rude saying that because I know that sometimes there is just similar ideas out there. I don't know. Anyone who's actually finished the series, if you could please share your thoughts on whether you also feel like the direction of this book takes the same kind of trajectory as A Court of Thorns and Roses / A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. I kind of felt like if I was gonna read this, then I should probably just go and pick up A Court of Thorns and Roses. I don't know. Now that I'm holding it up, talking about it to you, I'm kind of talking myself back around to it, but when I read this, I really didn't enjoy it. I felt absolutely no inclination to pick up the third book. For the most part, I do feel like this series is a little bit overhyped. It is like a YA Beauty and the Beast retelling, so for younger audiences, I do recommend it. But if you are an older audience and you get to choose between reading this or reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, I would read A Court of Thorns and Roses. And that is from me who does not like that series. I would also say that that series is massively overhyped, but I would still rather read that one than this one. And so that is my list of books that I believe are overhyped. Please do not take this to heart or think anything like personal of it. These are just my reviews and my opinions, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, so do feel free to disagree with me or agree with me down in the comment section, because I would love to hear your thoughts and maybe you can convince me. So if you guys like this video and you would like to see more, then do please feel free to hit that big red subscribe button down below to stay tuned for bookish content every Wednesday and every Friday. If you're watching this and you've watched this long, then you probably want to watch more. As I said, do feel free to check me out on Instagram and Twitter at Page in Chapter, so you can see what I'm reading and how I'm reviewing it in real time. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope you are having a fantastic week, you're enjoying everything that you are reading, and there are no reading slumps in your future. And I will see you next week for my next video. Bye guys.